You bring the energy, he'll do the rest. Martinez and Company, powered by Sports Radio 102.9 The Game.
You're going to hear it right here.
The show starts now.
It feels good to see the world getting loose. Feels good to see the world getting loose. Right. I don't know about you, Sack Noel. I don't know about you, Phenom. I don't know about you, like Shadow. I don't know about you, but I feel good.
Good morning, and yes, welcome back. It is Martinez coming to you live here on a Wednesday post-Hurricane Milton here in Florida in beautiful paradise, as we will take the time to rebuild and refunction as we do here as citizens in the state of Florida. We do appreciate everyone who tuned in, and thank you everyone who reached out. I do appreciate all the messages, and thanks for you guys. Make sure that my wife and I and the family were all okay down here. My dad, my mom, were all safe. My dad, quite stubborn man he is, but he decided to hang around to make sure, I guess, the house was safe. I don't know. But nonetheless, he is safe. Along with my mom, they lost power, my stepdad, but they were able to get it back. A lot of folks still here in the Florida region, of course, are still without power, but majority of the folks, and thanks to Governor Ron DeSantis, you guys heard me say this on the Pete Shepard Show, but thanks to Governor Ron DeSantis and all the work he did along with the state up there at the capital of Tallahassee, we do appreciate all the work, all the people he brought down when we were on our way out for safety purposes, because no one knew exactly what was going to end up happening due to this massive storm. But when we were heading up 95, the Lyman utility vehicles that were coming down 95 was just incredible. And then last night, Jeff Finnick, the owner of the Tampa Bay Lightning, had some of the guys from Alberta, Canada on as far as over at the Amalie Arena. He invited them to watch the game last night, even though Vancouver ended up losing. But nonetheless, he had them on, which was really, really cool to see. As Gazprom guy already says, now you can tell us how you really feel about the Jets. Yeah, I'll get into that. I'll also get into Nick Sirianni with the nonsense that he continues to spew out for the Eagles fans who keep believing in whatever he's doing. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Eagles fans that don't believe in him. But listen, nonetheless, it is what it is with the Eagles. But thanks to the governor, thanks to a lot of folks who end up helping out. Thanks to the community, always looking out for one another, the same way where we live and where everybody is, whether you're in Hernando, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Lee County, anywhere on the western side of the Gulf here. Thanks to everyone, and thanks to Rick also too, because he had reached out and obviously gave me the updates as far as the airport. I'm just glad that a lot of folks, more importantly, were able to survive. The homes, cars, everything else, it is a major inconvenience that you have to go through, because then you have to go through insurance claims and everything else. But it is better to survive a hurricane the way we had it for 2 weeks back to back, which was just unheard of. But thankfully, I think there may have been a few casualties, but a lot of it is just because some people couldn't leave. And I get it. I understand it. Sometimes things happen. And then you have some people just don't want to leave. But thanks to everyone who once again reached out. Thank you to the state of Florida for trying to get things back up and running. Doug, you just missed Pete. Pete was on from 7 to 10 a.m., but I do appreciate you coming by. But thanks to everyone once again. And last night, Lightning opened up the home opener against Vancouver. I will say that the Lightning looked stellar. A very good performance by the Tampa Bay Lightning last night at the Amalie Arena. But you guys know it was also a little bit somber as well, as we are now trying to rebuild here on the western side of the Gulf. And there were some places that actually were going through some renovations. I think Rockaway was going through. Thank you, Doug. I do appreciate that. There's no problem. I'm listening to you, brother. So I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Rockaway, I'm trying to think, Frenchies, Rockaway down in Clearwater. I know they had just gone through a rebuild, and I believe they had opened up just as Hurricane Helene was coming through. And then Milton apparently now has them rebuilding all over again. There's a lot of places, a lot of restaurants, favorite restaurants people like to come to, from Cedar Key all the way down to Pete's neck of the woods down here by Naples and Fort Myers and stuff, that will have to rebuild. But as resilient as we are as Floridians, even if you weren't born and raised here, obviously I was, and I moved from Philly some 5 years ago, but it's just, that's the Florida vibe. Everybody helps each other out here. I've never been to a state as the way it is here in Florida. And I know when you exit and enter the state, it'll say, welcome to the free state of Florida. And that's, again, thanks to Ron DeSantis for all the work he's done here. And hopefully whomever he is replaced by, that they will continue to work as hard as he did. You guys may not agree with everything he has done, but when it comes to taking care of him and Rick Scott, taking care of the state of Florida, they've done a phenomenal job. So that's that. Again, Jeff Finnick, who decided yesterday, and it's amazing by the Tampa Bay Lightning owner, where he never puts his name out there. Like, it's not Jeff's proceeds or Jeff this or Jeff that. The way he does it is right through the organization. So the Tampa Bay Lightning last night, if you purchased anything at the store, 100% of those proceeds went for hurricane relief, which is going to be needed a lot. You guys already know what's going up in the Carolinas, still up there in Boone, and still a lot of help. A lot of the communities have pulled together to help each other out up there in Boone. So our hearts go out to Boone as well, as they're still trying to get the folks that have been stranded because of roadways that haven't been cleared or rebuilt in order to get to people. And the helicopters, from what I've been told, is they're having a heck of a time to get up there to help people out. But again, it's just something like this has never been seen before at all. So, but Jeff Finnick decided to do a lot of proceeds last night from the Tampa Bay Lightning store and then pass it on. So therefore, folks who need the help can do so. The one thing I will say, and I know the Red Cross helps out a lot, but if there's different places, and I may set up something myself as well, maybe put out there tomorrow, but for those who can help, please help. And like I said, I may put out a private funding. So you guys, if you guys want to donate, I'll put it up there on social media a little bit later on. But there's a lot of folks that are going to need a lot of help, and they would appreciate it. Trust me, they would appreciate it, because there's a lot of families around here that I have seen that already go without on a daily basis. And now with the hurricane, they're really without. So anything you guys can end up doing, even as simple as a thought and a prayer. Trust me, prayer works. God is good. So I don't want to get too religious there, but he is good and he does listen. And I thank him for listening to the prayers here, for especially for every community that the very minimal casualties. Homes, cars, all that stuff are replaceable. People are not. Rick says Flyers started out with a 2-0 lead against the Edmonton Oilers and then found a way to lose it in overtime 4-3. Yes, they did, Rick. Yes, they did. But thank goodness it's very early in the season. The Flyers, no one expected what they did last year and kind of make the run that they did, and then to turn around and come up short towards the end of the season, make the playoffs. But I didn't even expect, after Jonesy and Briere taking over last season, I didn't expect the Flyers to really be in playoff contention, but they were almost there. This year, I'm quite sure, just like last year should have been different, but I'm pretty sure this year, that is the ultimate goal, is to be able to make the playoffs. But it's a long season. We'll talk about that come January when we see, and it doesn't seem like it's really that far away. We're already, mid-October, October 16th here. And by the way, thank you all for once again tuning in. Martinez Academy. I'm Angel Martinez, executive producer of my own show, CEO here of Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game, along with the Coastal Sports Network, and all brought to you by Brasserie South, the original company that started everything here on the network. And if you would like to call or text the show, you can do so at 727-858-6650, 727-858-6650. And I appreciate someone new like Doug, who reached out to Pete, but he's hanging around and listening to what will be the Sirianni mess. The Jets, sometimes you just get frustrated because was it Pete mentioned that was the Devontae Adams kind of sighting over at Aaron's place when he was on with the guys yesterday? Was that set up? Everybody knew he was going to be there. I don't think it's a shock to a lot of people. What will be shocking to see is how the Jets will perform. Now, again, they got rid of Robert Salah. There was so much that happened last week, or we were off because of the hurricane, but they get rid of Salah, and okay. And how did that work out for them? Now, I did pick the Bills to win that game. And by the way, those who play ESPN's Pigskin Pick'em off the website, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go to sr1029thegame.com, as you see up there on the screen, and you can join the league that way. ESPN apparently has some sort of crazy glitch. Unfortunately, it's happened to Gas Pump Guy now for, I think, almost his third week in a row, where you place your picks and for some reason it doesn't save it. So if you are part of the league, just make sure you keep your picks down, because at the end of the season, like I said, we're going to come up with something with the winner at the end of it. So last week, all but one that I did not pick right. So I haven't written down. I know Duncan Dad, he keeps track of the weekly picks that we do here on the show. And if you guys don't know about it, every Friday we do 5 picks with everyone, the listeners and all who want to put in their name in the hat there. We do 5 picks daily, or weekly, I should say, on Fridays. If you guys want to be involved, you can do so as well. You can always also reach out through the website or right through the social medias, so you guys can join in all the fun that we end up having around here. But the Jets continue to just do, I guess, Jets things, if that makes sense. They bring in Davante Adams, and to me, it seems like they believe that's going to be the end all to be all. It's going to be that they brought in, Davante Adams. They, I guess, now think, and Greeny thought, you guys heard the video, I'm bringing it back up here in a little bit, but Greeny thought that now they're going to win their next 7 out of 9. I don't see it. If you guys also saw towards the end of the game there, Aaron Rodgers. Now, believe me, I was not a Tom Brady fan at all while he was in New England. He came here to Tampa, seemed to change his demeanor a little bit. I think maybe a little bit of reality kind of kicked in with the Bucs, end up helping him win a Super Bowl title here in the Bucs. And somebody put out there not too long ago too, that I noticed, excuse me for a second. Somebody had put out there that it's been a long time since the Bucs have won a Super Bowl title. They're only separated by 4 years. It's not that long. But Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, what do I know? I'm just here on radio. But Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, is not built like Tom Brady. And I mean that, in the food, the way Tom Brady figured out how to take care of himself, so he was able to play at a high standard. You look at Aaron Rodgers towards the end of that game, I don't think, and someone said it, or they brought Davante Adams so they can, keep him around for like another 3 or 4 years as far as Aaron Rodgers, sign him an extension, blah, blah, blah. I just don't see it. Aaron is coming to on 40, if not 40, about 41. I don't think he's going to play in the likelihood of what Tom Brady did, even when the Patriots were at their worst towards the end there before the end of the Belichick-Brady era, especially when he was out of town. And I'm quite certain he wanted to stay as a Patriot to retire that way, which obviously eventually he did. But he had mentioned, don't forget, when we was with Tampa, that he was going to retire as a Buccaneer. But, of course, things changed. He'll be a Hall of Famer here soon. And with Vegas, he just got the nod to be the minority stakeholder with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, it changes the perspective as far as him broadcasting, where he can kind of open up a little bit more. And I don't know if you guys can make your comments as well. I don't know. I've enjoyed his broadcasts. In my opinion, I think he hasn't done a bad job. And again, what do I know? I think he's been really good. I think even Joe Buck, as much as I was critical on Joe Buck, I think maybe the switch to ESPN, maybe that whole just new dynamic for Joe Buck has made him a lot better with Troy Aikman. And I know a lot of people liked him, don't get me wrong. And again, we can be like judges on a circuit court. We're going to have our opinions, and we have the right to those opinions. We can share whatever we want to, but I think Joe Buck's gotten better. But Tom Brady's done a pretty good job. And in my humble opinion, Brady is 100% a Patriot. And Doug, I completely believe it. I'm just wondering, Doug, I'd like to get your opinion as well. If the Patriots would have offered, and I'm not too sure because I don't think Tom Brady's talked about it, if he would have been offered a front office job, would he have taken it? I know his heart's been set with the Raiders for a while. I know the ending up there in New England wasn't the best, but obviously the fans are going to love him to death. I mean, 6 titles that you bring up there to New England is, nothing to laugh at. But to me, I think he's done a good job. Now, reverting that back to Aaron Rodgers, you're just not going to play. You're not going to play at the same caliber that Tom Brady did. So for the whole Davante Adams to come over to the Jets, and that's going to be like, and listen, this week, I guess we'll all find out. And I'm pretty sure Devontae's going to play. Like he had mentioned yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, is that it's basically the same game, just different playbook. And so today's what, Wednesday? I'm pretty sure he'll be in there on Sunday. Will he get all the touches? Probably not, but I'm pretty sure he's going to do a good enough job to be able to fight for it. As Gasbum Guy says, I think Brady did good when I heard him call the $1 game. He does. He was, the only difference was with Tom Brady, now that he's back to, or at least now that he got approved of being with the Raiders as far as a minority stakeholder, is that he's able to open up a little more in the broadcast. The only difference is, obviously, he can't share any of the information to the Raiders, but it's not that hard because he's out there calling these games. And if you're a scout, you're going to be there anyway. So Tom Brady is going to be able to see the game, obviously call the game live, but the scouts are going to do a much better job than what Tom Brady's going to be. And plus, he's not going to jeopardize, in my opinion, I don't think he wants to jeopardize the approval from the NFL that he was able to then be a minority stakeholder for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I'm quite sure he's probably not done with that either. As far as like, at one point, I think he's probably going to be a majority stakeholder unless he wants to, I don't know, spread his money elsewhere. We already know he already owns a team overseas as far as soccer or soccer club. But nonetheless, I just think when it comes to the Jets, Davante Adams is not going to be the end all to be all for the Jets. The Jets have bigger issues. The Jets are going to have to figure out who they're going to bring in as head coach. I know a lot of folks have probably said that they would like to see Belichick in there. Remember that it was when Belichick decided to not be a head coach with the New York Jets and then decided to take on the New England Patriots job, and the rest, as it's always said, is history. I mean, the final 2-3 years of Belichick's career up there in New England may not have worked the way he wanted it. Will he come back as a head coach? I think so. I think Dallas might be the destination for him. I know he tried with Atlanta. Atlanta decided to go a different route because of, how much he wants, the responsibility, GM, head coach, and other things as such. But I think he'll be back. I've heard even Eagles fans say that it would take Belichick up in Philly, which is kind of surprising. But again, this is now the post-Patriots era. So we shall see how that works out. Rick says, supposedly a fan wrote he was the one yelling at Sirianni to run the ball. In the end, it was Nick saying, I told you we run the ball, with a few choice words in between. Okay. Well, that's good. But again, Sirianni, I'll get to the Eagles because trust me, I don't understand for the life of me. I really don't. I don't understand him. And I keep saying the name, by the way, and my phone activates because of the first 4 letters. But I don't understand where people are just, there's a point in time when it comes to Philly fans. I know we're talked about in a negative spotlight a lot of places. Everywhere you go, you'll hear some, and I'm so just beyond tired of the whole Santa Claus batteries, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Listen, that's from many years ago. But you can't tell me that the Eagles fan base is okay with just an okay win. No one goes out there and says, all right, you know what? I want to have a great day, but okay would be good. If the day didn't start out well, and we've known this, right? We've had times where we get up in the morning, hit the coffee maker, maybe forget to put the cup under it. Now you got coffee spilled all over the place, unless you have, one of those kind of deep trays where it collects the coffee for you. So hopefully you're not cursing up a storm. The dumbest little things, everybody does it. The dumbest little things, sometimes they irritate you, but then you move on, right? You get on to another time, and everything is okay, everything's hunky-dory, and you just kind of keep pressing on your day. There's no way in the world you're going to tell me that Eagles fans are still happy with Nick. There's no way. I don't want to say the other name because obviously it'll activate the phones here in the studio, but it cracks me up where he wants to bring his kids up there. And he's done it before. It's not nothing new with Nick. We've seen it before. But you bring him up there because you want to deflect upon the win that you barely squeaked out against a team that busted out the brown bags all over again. It was just not too long ago. Let's remember, folks, Baker Mayfield, the Browns quit on Baker Mayfield. Baker didn't quit on the Browns. It was the other way around. And for a good time there, Browns fans were, chest up, shoulders front. I mean, the whole 9 yards. Everything was great. And then comes Deshaun Watson. That trade that cost the Browns plenty. And then Deshaun Watson decides to quit on his team 2 games ago. But then the Eagles barely pull out a win. And you as a head coach basically are telling people like Andy Reid, you should say, like, enjoy the win. No, that should have been a major blowout of epic proportions. But you tell the fan base that we won by 4. The Eagles won by 4 and barely. I'm really glad I was able to watch the game because I was traveling back. So I'm glad I wasn't able to watch it. But just watching the highlights afterwards when I was able to catch up to it, and then his nonsense on the podium, and then to come back and tell the fans basically half-ass answer, and I'll bring it up. I'll find it here momentarily. But to bring up basically an answer like, listen, you guys don't like it? Suck it. It's basically what he's telling everybody, whether you want to read into it or not. And by the way, if you're the first time ever listening in on this particular network, we don't hold anything back. So we're not doing the whole censoring thing. We're not doing the, whatever you want to call it these days. No, we say exactly what's on our minds. So hopefully you'll end up joining that one. But that's basically, if you really read into it, because he didn't answer the question. You came on and you deflected once again. You could have came on and said, listen, here's the reason why I said what I had to say, and then go into an explanation. But basically it's like, no, it was almost like, well, yeah, we won, but the traffic on 95 was absolutely insane. And if, the people in Florida must really be going through it right now. And, what about that fire out there in Wyoming? And then if you travel to Texas, you can go to all these crazy caverns that they have there. And Arizona, is it cooling down? That's what it sounded like, basically, when it came down to his so-called apology. That's what it sounded like. You should know you're going to get ridiculed in Philly. It's not going to be any different in New England. It's not going to be any different in Chicago. In Chicago, you got Caleb Williams. He's doing a really good job out there with the Bears, but Bear fans are still killing him. Like, this is his first season as your rookie quarterback. Did you guys expect for, things to come out by gangbusters? And speaking of Chicago, Justin Fields is doing an outstanding job out there in Pittsburgh. But yet you have Coach Tomlin who says, I'm going to give both quarterbacks a start here. So you don't fix what's not broken. You leave Justin Fields in there, which is now shown Bears fans and Eberflus that obviously Justin Fields with good coaching, a good assistant coaches, make you a better player. And hopefully the same way with Bryce Young, that maybe, they don't give up on him completely down there in Carolina's got more problems than just Bryce Young. Let's just put that out there. And I'm talking about the team. I'm not talking about the state. The Carolina Panthers have more problems than just Bryce Young. So if you guys think, they just gave up on Bryce and they put in a step-headed red child, which is Andy Dalton, okay, you put him in there. But nonetheless, they got problems. They got issues. They got to figure out, I hear all the time, right? People find your identity. What's the Carolina Panthers identity? I don't know. I mean, okay, so I think you squeaked out a new uniform. Is that it? I mean, they gave up on Cam, right? They basically pushed him out of town. How did that work out for him? So it's just a lot of these teams I don't understand. And I don't get why they hold on to the people the way they do. Now, of course, we can be armchair quarterbacks all day long. We can be. As fans, it's what we do. As broadcasters, what we do. On radio, it's what you talk about. It just burns me when, once again, now you have Nick in there with these half-ass apologies and trying to figure out, what to do next. Who am I? Well, what's going on here? How am I going to deflect this? The Eagles right now, they better hope they don't win the division because they'll get embarrassed during the playoffs. Pete asked me if I want him to lose. Why? You win, okay, so what? Jalen Hurts is still not on the same sheet of music, and people can say whatever they want to. They can spit it all they want back in Philly. Jalen Hurts and Nick are not on the same sheet of music. And I didn't even have to watch the game. My wife was updating me on the car ride back from South Carolina and telling me what was going on. You're not sorry, but you're not on the same sheet of music. If your QB and your HC are not on the same, no, it's good. We saw it. Rodgers, Salah, same this, right? Same thing. They weren't on the same sheet of music, but yet people still went. As fans, you got to go. It's what we love. We go out there, we pay this money, or you pay for the TV package. And by the way, that's getting a little bit insane because even last night trying to find the Tampa Bay Lightning game, you have to have so many different packages of this, that, and the third. Now you got to get Peacock, and then you get Amazon Prime on Thursday, and you got ESPN, or you got to go now to ESPN Plus, and it's so much. And by the way, if you do want to save a lot of money, speaking of, on your cable bill, visit sr1029thegame.com. On the home landing page, right at the bottom, visit Ayumas. Visit Ayumas. Okay, you can save yourself a lot of money. A lot of money. It's a really good service. I've had it now for the past 4 years. They've been now the sponsor here of the show, and I appreciate Ayumas.com. But they have a great service. And like everything else, I'm not going to say it's 100% perfect, but I will say their uptime is at least, and it could work differently depending on who your service provider is. But for me, I would say the uptime has been up at least 90% in the 4+ years that I've been using their service. And I'll just swear by it myself, because if something goes wrong, you let them know what's going on, and they're quick to get back to you. So hats off to Yumas.com. You guys can, again, visit them on sr1029thegame.com. Right on the homepage, save yourself a bunch of money. Do it. I'm pretty sure you won't regret it. But a couple of comments also came in here. Rick says, Stefanski has made a mistake by not playing Winston. Yep. I will agree 1,000% there. Which kind of too, Rick, if you really look at it with Miami and whatever, Miami's doing this thing, whatever. Miami's doing Miami things, but it's the same way. If I'm Miami, I would have reached out to Cleveland and would have reached out for Jameis. Why not? Bring him back to Florida. I think he's proven himself beyond after the Bucs. He's a good quarterback. So why not? Or maybe Carolina reaches out to him and helps Bryce Young resurrect his career. Jameis did it. Baker Mayfield did it. And which kind of surprised me too with Canales. How is it, and Gaspam guy, I know he's listening in as well, but Dave Canales resurrected Baker Mayfield. So you're allowing the owner, who, by the way, was not really nice to the fan base last year, and yet you guys are still buying tickets out there in Carolina. But Canales didn't give up on Baker Mayfield, but you gave up on Bryce. And maybe I'm just one side. Again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just playing armchair quarterback right here. But you don't give up on a guy. You just don't. But there's so much stuff that goes wrong, and it makes you scratch your head to figure out exactly what's what when the NFL. And again, I'll get back here to the Jets and my goofy Eagles in a second. As Penguin AC says, welcome back, hermano. LFG Martinez and company, yo. I do appreciate it, Penguin AC. Good morning, fellas. As Rick says, good morning to all who are all watching. Once again, thank you all for listening and watching and on standby here. He's been very quiet on the scene because I want to get his opinion as well, who I always enjoy and appreciate coming on with me as soon as I flip the script here for a second. But I always appreciate his time. It's always a good time when he comes on with me. And you guys know him as Duncan Dad. I got to get one more. There it is, up there off the screen. But I do appreciate every time he comes on with me. He's up there in the know-how when it comes to Philly. That is 10:48. We'd like to thank our sponsors as well in the show. We'll take a break here at the top of the hour to make sure we pay the bills around here. But Duncan Dad, thank you, first of all, for joining me here this morning. And listen, I don't know what it's actually like in the city, but I'm pretty sure no one is sold that Nick should still be here.
People are fed up. One of my guys who works at the ESPN station here, he was putting some stuff up the other day and we're talking. He was like, it's just a train wreck, and I know it's not going to end, and he's not going to be out before the season's done. So I sort of have to just ride this train as far as it's going to go until the wheels fall off, sort of like the same way the Phillies are doing with Topper and Dombrowski. At some point in your evaluation, you have to step back and say, look, this guy is probably what is holding us back. And I liken it to the fact that there's just no consistency with him. He's an emotional dude. Like he loves his family, he loves the city, he wants to like embrace it all. But something like that happens on an organic level, right? You can't create it. We talk about this all the time. You can't create this mystique. You can't create this culture. You can't just spontaneously walk in and be like, "Oh, this is it. The guys are on board with me." We know there's an issue between you and Jalen Hurts, right? We know there's an issue with you letting go of critical play calling during the game and then asserting yourself and making critical play calls when it's it's out of your scope at this point, right? You're either hands on or hands off. We see this completely come to fruition, completely come to the penultimate when you look at what's happening in Dallas and Jerry Jones, right? I mean, this is like one end of the spectrum to the other, but this is the full growth chart if you let this continue. Right? The coach is like, oh, there's no problem. Everything's cool. It's all right. Don't get in my business. We're handling it. What's going on in the locker room is ours. I know how to deal with these guys. I'm going to get involved with the fans and blah, 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 blah. But it's right. Exactly, Rick. Like he's getting too caught up in his emotions with the fans. Look, you're the head coach of the football team. Be the head coach of the football team. Kincaid, one of my other guys, you guys all know him. He's in Atlanta radio for the longest time, back up in
Yep.
Philly for the next, I think it's 7 or 8 years now, 10 years. He said, like, it's sometimes you don't have to give, and you do this all the time when you interview, right, Angel? Like, you don't have to give all of the information. Like, sometimes you don't need to take us behind the curtain. You don't have to. And when you have, because we complain about transparency in this country a lot of times, right? But a lot of times there's a point where that the transparency, the pulling back of the curtain, the ripping off the Band-Aid, it does more harm than good. Right? It does more harm, and not necessarily for those who are looking and observing and then giving commentary. It's doing more harm for the internal cohesiveness. What the hell is my coach doing? He's getting in for the fans, dude. When Jim Moore goes off and he's saying playoffs, what are you talking about? Blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Like he's criticizing the whole of what he's doing, what his coach is doing, what his players are doing. He's not out there chiding with the fans, and we all want to be interconnected. We all want to have high fives. And I think Sirianni, probably a great dude, right? Probably a great guy, just like Stefanski, just like Eberflus, just like Shanahan, like probably really good dudes one-on-one. But when they're doing their thing, just let him be the head coach. My head coach should not be concerned about what any fan is saying, even if he feels like he has to respond to it. Your team is 3-2. You barely beat the Browns.
Correct.
Come on, dude.
Correct. By the way, on the line with us, joining us live from Philly as well, it is Mike Fuji, who normally comes on Mondays to do the Eagles Weekly Report, just like Gaspar Guy does with the Bucks. But Fuji, diehard, and for those who don't know, if you're new to the show here, Mike Fuji should be enshrined probably in the Eagles Hall of Fame, probably even in the Ring of Honor, with as much stuff he's gone by. He is a Rolodex of Eagles wealth of information. But Fuji, if B-Doc was with this team right now, how upset would he be with this fallout of what's been called the bird's nest?
Angel, first of all, I want to, I hope you and Doug are well. Everybody, Rick, everybody's doing well down there in Florida. God bless everybody recovering. Doc would be getting in people's asses. This is ridiculous. Sorry. It's like Duncan Dad said. How you doing, Duncan Dad, by the way?
Hey, Fuji, what's up, brother? Victory Wednesday, right?
It barely beat this team, and probably the top echelon colleges can beat the Cleveland Browns, even the Little Sisters of the Poor right now, because that team is a dumpster fire. They unloaded Amari Cooper. I'll be shocked if the Eagles beat the Giants this week the way they look. They should, but who knows? But
hey,
whole series.
Fuji, hang on for 1 second. Doug, appreciate it. Says, peace out, boys. Got to run. Catch you again soon from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Thank you, Doug. We do appreciate it. Come back. And Doug, whenever you get the opportunity to call into the show, we do appreciate it. Go ahead, Fuji.
Look at this. Using my Cape Cod Duncan mug today.
Oh, look at that.
How about that?
What a weird coincidence, but that's a good one.
this whole Nick Sirianni experiment should be over. This guy should have been out of the job. Jeff Lurie or Howie probably gotten his ass on that press conference Monday and told him to apologize. Like, you did it last year in Kansas City. You mocked the Giants fans earlier in the offseason for getting Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're arguing with our fan base. Like, I don't know. His press conferences, it's a circus. This guy just lies through his teeth. Fredo Sirianni's got to go. It's beyond belief. It's pathetic. Holy
Right,
Pop Bombs, call it what you want. High school Harry has to go.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. And I'm sure you guys touched on this before I jumped on, but even if he's not, quote unquote, yelling at the fan, right? Even if there's just casual thing like, hey, I told you so. I told you, I got you. Like, I don't need my head coach to get me. My head coach needs to focus on what's going on between those hash lines. Like, don't worry about what I'm saying. I don't care if you come over like, yeah, after the game, we're kicking their butt. You want to walk by, you want to high five people when everything's said and done? Fantastic. But Phil Jackson, Andy Reid, Pat Riley, none of them are turning around in the middle of the game barking at somebody behind them on the bench who's saying, run a high screen and low. Run a high screen. Run a high screen. Like, they don't give a shit.
Correct.
Sorry for the word. Like, but they don't care.
They don't.
I also
No, go ahead, Fuj.
I was going to say I was listening to 97.3 ESPN here in South Jersey, and Mike Gill, the host, was talking. It was so bad about Sirianni that on the Pat McAfee show Monday, they were even mocking the whole Sirianni thing too. Just, I mean, it's national news. How more pathetic can this get? What's going to come next week and the next 12 weeks?
That's just it. It's just because it's a sad state of affairs. We all know, and none of us ever want to turn back the clock. We've seen coaches come through and coaches leave. The worst of the worst, and you can almost kind of battle between Rich Kotite and Chip Kelly. But Chip Kelly came in here and dismantled this team. It didn't take long before he was exited out. So none of us ever want to go back to that situation when it comes to Chip Kelly and then Nick Sirianni. You bring him in and you think, okay, all right, he wasn't supposed the choice, but they went to the Colts. They thought he was good enough. He comes in. Yes, he goes to the Super Bowl, but then chokes on the second half. Again, continues to do the same thing. I mentioned it prior to the season starting. I don't think that how he should have turned around and basically gotten rid of him. You collapse that bad in that run, and then you start off the preseason by just saying, we're just going to watch what happened last year. The fan base does not forget what happened last season, and last season is this season. There's been no change, no adjustment, same shit, different day is the way I look at it. There's nothing completely different, but I want to play this, Foods, because you have brought it up. And this, you talk about going around in a circle to try to answer something you can't answer, but here's Nick Sirianni when he defended his decision to bring his kid to the press conference. And my only intention for him, according to him, was my love for my family and wanted him to share that moment with him. And this is credit to 94 WIP back in Philly. Give it a second and I'll fire up. I'm going to pause it real quick. Just listen to the spin cycle. All right. Apparently, some people are saying that he can't hear anything. Penguin AZ says he doesn't hear anything. Gaslam guy says what happened. I can hear it, but apparently something must not be coming through. I don't know why, but it should have been playing. Nonetheless, so if there was dead air there, I apologize. I don't know why, because it worked with Pete this morning. So, anyways, I'll go back and resolve that one. But basically, you got Nick Sirianni saying that, you know, his dad loves the game. There's a reason why he's here, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. And okay, now what? So now you've come out with all these different little nuances and the things that again, it piss off the fan base. But now what? Because it's the same. Nothing that you're saying that, and now even NBC Sports Philly here just sent out a tweet. What the heck is going on with the Eagles special teams? I'm telling you, it is the talk of the NFL for all the wrong reasons. And correct me if I'm wrong, but at this point, you would expect the level of competition last year from the Eagles to be a lot better this year. Now, I've also heard too that Hassan Reddick has been granted his wish that he can seek out a trade. Why bring him back to Philly when he's going to have a chip of a whole different kind on his shoulder because he still wants to get paid? Something that Howie said he didn't want to hear. It's just utterly ridiculous. It's just, it doesn't make any freaking sense. But Fuji, I'll go back to you here for a second. What's it going to take? What's it really going to take to finally get Sirianni out of here?
I say you got to drop the next couple games because, I mean, if I'm Jeff Lurie or Howie, and you basically laid down to the opposition and almost, barely beat Cleveland. I mean, it's pathetic. It's a win, but I mean, that to me, it's not saying much. I mean, you're not balling out right now like Washington or and like the Detroit Lions, like how they just came out and just wiped the field up and down the field with Dallas. Like how do you call this a Super Bowl caliber team? Like Eagle, I don't know. The lease has to be tight on him. He has to be like turning purple. I mean, after this loss, like this is ridiculous. I mean, who the heck do you plug in? Is it Kellen Moore? The whole thing, like, who's the interim coach is another question. But
to me, that's who should have been there. You bring up a great point, though, Fuji, because to me, that's who should have been there. It should be Kellen Moore. I think Kellen Moore, and I could be crazy. I think Kellen Moore was once supposed to replace Nick Sirianni. That again, my opinion, doesn't matter. Probably not. Well, but that's who I think they were going to replace him with. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Fuji.
Oh, no, you didn't call him that. I agree because, well, for some people that don't know this, I'm sure Duncan Dad does, but the Eagles interviewed Kellen Moore the same hiring process with Nick Sirianni. So, I mean, I know Vic Fangio was a head coach in Denver. It didn't work out. I'm sure at his age, he don't want, especially here in this town. I know I wouldn't be at 68 years old. And I would turn it over to Kellen Moore because who else can you give it to? Unless there's one of these an assistant coach, but assistant head coach or whatnot. But I guess you would have to make Kellen Moore the interim coach going forward. I mean, all the rumors about Belichick, but I can't see Belichick coming here working with Howie and all that front office.
Oh, I don't know either. But again, I don't think Belichick was to come here. I think he might be dead set on maybe taking over for Dallas because Dallas is also, that's another team. You talk about some wild things that end up happening there. You pay Dak Prescott, and there's no way in the world you're going to tell me now that Jerry Jones probably didn't regret a little bit more to hold off to see what this team's going to end up doing. Now, a lot of blame could go on Dak Prescott, but also it's your team, right? There's 52 guys out there. There's not just one. You play as a team, you fall as a team. So Dallas has their own issues. And then who would have thought, even though my hermano, the Drive with Q, who should be on later on this afternoon, even though he had mentioned before the season kicked off was that the Commanders were going to be the one to take the division, he may have seen something that the rest of us didn't see because right now it is now it started out the season as everyone stated it was for the Eagles to lose, which they are. I just don't believe they're going to win a division. And if they do, they're not going to go far in the playoffs. So truthfully, it's the Redskins now. It's up to them to lose this division because the Cowboys aren't going to do it. Everybody's schedule is not getting easier in the AFC East from here on out. It doesn't get the easiest one for the Eagles were the Browns. And I can't even say, and call me nuts, Duncan Dad, that wasn't even battle tested. That I don't even know, what do you call that, recreational game?
Yeah, pretty much. It should have been over at halftime. Guys should have been doing their victory laps. We should have been seeing, our backup quarterback get in there, get some reps. Let's rest Hurts. Let's rest Saquon. Let's not bang them up anymore. You can read the barometer of the league in relation to the Eagles because literally it was like the Tuesday, was it yesterday afternoon? They were like, "Oh, hey, that game, you and the Bengals, is supposed to be prime time. Well, we flexed that. You guys are playing at 1 o'clock now." Like the league's just like both of these teams are supposed to be knocking everybody's socks off, are just executing like trash. Bengals can't catch a break to win a game. The Eagles are zombie dead sleepwalking through games. It's not exciting to watch. We're not going to use this as our marquee game. We are going to go and grab the Commanders now. We're going to run them out, put them in that slot, and it's like, okay, cool, right? Like this is what happens. And when you step back and look at the bigger picture, all these little digs, all these little nuances that start to creep in, you start to take away. It's like, oh, I guess just like with a job, right? Oh, I guess they're downsizing. I guess well, we haven't had the Perrier water in the water cooler. We're on to like whatever it is from Walmart, and then the next is like, oh, we don't have the gourmet coffee anymore. We have Folgers in the bun machine. And you're taking notes of this, right? Right. And like Fuchs said, the Eagles got a plan in place. Kellen Moore came through that interview process last time. It was more, yeah, good. Alfred Corner in Dallas, run the ball over the place, had a healthy Zeke, Pollard, double-headed monster, blah, 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 blah. Fits well with the Eagles because they always do a multiple running back thing, even if they have a set running back, right? He's their fail-safe. So if it goes totally south with Nick, Kellen just comes in, he takes that job and sees him through. The only problem is, will he be the guy to really pilot and drive this organization back to where they expect to be? And maybe he's holding back in the way that he's trying to execute the offensive game plan. But you take away an A.J. Brown, who was clearly Jalen's security blanket, go-to guy, again, looking for him all the time. You take that away, what are you really left with? Like, what do you mean? Goddard's hurt again. Devontae Smith is, one throw away from getting his bell rung again because Jalen doesn't really throw people open. It's just like you see this deterioration happening before your eyes, and you're like, when is somebody gonna step in from above and smash that Staples button and be like, all right, we're hitting the stop right now.
Yep.
This guy's not productive for what's going on our team. Let's salvage what we can. And let's move forward. And again, nothing against the person, nothing against the guy, nothing against his family or what he wants to do, and nothing because, hey, Duncan, you're not in the locker room, you don't know. Dude, you don't have to be in that locker room to know. Just watch the game. All right, just watch the game. So it's all going to come. It's just how far over the edge are we going to let everybody go?
That's just it. And I went, since people didn't get to here's a condensed version of his apology.
Look, we're brothers. Me and Nick are brothers. Look, see?
Yeah. You guys could pass for brothers, but here's a video element for you guys who wouldn't, for some reason, couldn't be able to hear it. But here's about a minute wrap up into this conversation.
Mr. Lurie and I talk every time after the game. Every time I haven't talked to him yet today. I know how supportive Mr. Lurie has been through everything. I would say this about that. What I was really doing, I was trying to bring energy yesterday, energy, enthusiasm yesterday, and I'm sorry and disappointed on how my energy was directed at the end of the game. And my energy should be all in on coaching, motivating, right, and celebrating with our guys. And so, that's and I got to have better wisdom and discernment of when to use that energy, and that wasn't the time. And so, we have the best fans in the world. There's no place like this, and they show up and show out no matter where we are. I can't, Brazil, Arizona, it doesn't matter. New Orleans, and in that game too, that they had two. It was loud, and I thought it was really loud, energetic, and those two false starts that the Browns got that forced a field goal instead of who knows, like they're they're 4th and 8, excuse me, at the 8-yard line, and then they get a penalty and they don't go for it on 4th and 13. Who knows how that goes? And so our fans brought the energy, brought the passion, brought the juice, and like I said, that's my answer to that.
Okay. Now, again, that as he said, that's his answer to that, right? He reminds me of when you guys pretty much know this. When you have the guy that works and he's always he does half production, half this, half that. He can call out 4 or 5 days in a row. No one ever questions him. But then he does probably the one thing that everybody, got surprised by. And now he's the guy like, yeah, Bill, I need you to come to my office. We need to talk. That's what Sirianni looks like right now. But I just, everything that he just said there, like, oh, well, we talk and, the energy that I brought, blah, blah, blah. What energy? All you brought is more Eagles fans to either drive you nuts or to drive us nuts or just for you to be talking to town. And didn't stop there either, because Pat McAfee has something to say about it as well. Because again, you are putting yourself in the most negative spotlight ever. And Eagles fans are not dumb. And I'm tired of people, the whole thing always, they want to talk about Philly nonsense. You want to, when you're bringing Philly to a spotlight and Pat McAfee's talking about it for all, not the good reasons, this should be a wake-up call to Nick. But here's Pat McAfee about the whole apology thing as well.
His coach was actually seen talking shit back to the crowd at the end of the game. Now, there's a Reddit report that the fan that he was chatting to at the time, earlier in the game, was yelling to Nick, hey, run the damn ball! Run the ball, Nick! Even though Kellen Moore's the play caller, was boozed up. He's self-admitted in this particular Reddit post. And then at the end of the game, when Sirianni went over to him, he said, I told you I was going to run the ball. Because while he was yelling, run the ball, he turned and said, calm down, we will. And then whenever they did at the end, that's what Sirianni was going over to say. So it wasn't really like shit-talking per se, kinda though. Kinda. If this Reddit report is accurate and real, which was gaining a lot of traction on the internet and Philadelphia internet, I think, because a lot of people were saying, this makes this a lot different than what it originally was, as opposed to Sirianni just going to the entire crowd. Why? Suck it to all of Philadelphia. Allegedly, he was talking to one person or one group of people via this report that has not been substantiated, but it has been spread like wildfire.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to make sure we say that. But Sirianni came out and apologized. He said, say he didn't like it. Here he is.
I was trying to bring energy yesterday, enthusiasm yesterday. And I'm sorry and disappointed on how my energy was directed at the end of the game. And, my energy should be all in on coaching, motivating, right, and celebrating with our guys.
Talking,
and so,
that's,
and I got to have better wisdom and discernment of when to use that energy, and that wasn't the time. And so,
hey Nick, I'm wondering what made you kind of feel the way you do, what you just articulated. What made you change your mind? Because after the game, you said I was just having fun. What changed, sure. And were you aware of the way the fans reacted?
There's play calls in the game that you go through, and game management things that you go through, and say, at the time I thought this was the right thing, and then you evaluate everything. You evaluate the way the players played. You evaluate the things that you did as a coach to get them ready to play, or the calls that you made, or the management of the game that you did. And you do the same thing with other things, which this one is.
Now we're a couple of days removed. I got to look back. They edited it and cut that off at a bad spot. Obviously, he had more to say. Coach Sirianni was sorry and disappointed. If that Reddit report is real, feels like he was talking to one particular thing about one particular situation. The optics, obviously, for some people, not good, regardless of it all.
Anybody want to add to it? Duncan, I'll go with you first.
Oh man, this is your head football coach, the face of your organization per se, right? Less the quarterback, obviously, being chastised more or less and criticized in a way of context of conversation and action by probably the biggest form of social media sports podcast in the world, drawing all this attention to this guy. Now, there's a great quote about draw attention to yourself, right? But in a positive way. It was like Wedding Crashers, I think like 2015, 5, something like that, 2005. But like that's it. It's like, you're already in the spotlight and you're trying to be this rah-rah dude. And you absolutely nailed it. Everything you just said about that one guy who shows up and like he has a little bit of clout with his position because maybe one point when he first started something they were
Mhm.
like yeah there you go, yeah, right, you may have taken over the reins from somebody else and you reap the benefits of that, but then when it becomes totally yours you sort of just do the Homer Simpson thing where you fade back into the bushes in the background and then every now and then you stick your head out to make sure it's okay and you kind of creep back in. Like he's that guy. And look, there's nothing wrong with being that guy if that's the guy you are. But everybody, I say this all the time, and I do not mean it to be demeaning to anyone. A little bit of pouring perspective here on Angel Martinez company. Find what it is that you're good at. Grow in those areas.
Right.
Work on the things that you may be deficient in. But never, and this is just a life thing, right? If you are a square peg, you're not going to go into the round hole. But then find the damnedest best square peg in the world and hole and go into that square little hole, that square little opening. Like there are places for you to fit in. There are places for you to excel. But we have see so many people all the time try to be this when they're not. If you're not an extroverted person, you can work on it,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just not who you are, and that's okay. Like this guy, he's not a head coach. He might be a great coordinator. He might be a great receivers coach. He may fit the role that they need in a sort of headpiece kind of position. But I don't know, like when you think of a head coach, you think of someone who either is authoritative,
Mm-hmm.
right? Someone who is in command of the room, someone who demands respect, someone who is like a Dan Campbell, right? He walks in, he's emotional, he's in touch with the fans, right? He's been in the game, but he lives and breathes Detroit, right? He lives and breathes that organization. When he walks in and he hands out a game ball, people are falling all over themselves because he's acknowledging what they're doing, what's going on, what's happening, all the hard work, and even when they lose. But this guy, like he's everybody's seen The Godfather, right? Everybody's
Well,
seen The Godfather,
the
right?
Godfather's on the phone too.
Yeah, there's a great scene in Godfather 2, right, where Michael grabs Fredo.
Fredo.
He gives him a hug and he gives him a kiss, and it's like that's it. Like, stop being Fredo, Nick. Stop being Fredo. Just know your role, do your thing, close your mouth.
Yep.
That's it. That's all. That's all you need to do.
That's it. Fuji, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Well, I mean, it's like Duncan Dad pretty much said, he basically touched on it. You're going to be a coordinator, a motivator, whatever, but he's not a head coach. And technically, he is Fredo. He is Fredo from The Godfather, Fredo Sirianni. But, like, I don't know, he's just making a mockery out of the front office, the fan base, this team. Like first, behind your kids so you don't get ridiculed at the podium for just, pulling out. You bring your kids out to like the NFC Championship win, like milestones, big win, like a blowout. Like, as you said, this game should have been over by halftime. And you play down to this opposition where who knows where the NFL is going this year because, unexpectedly, teams that are winning are undefeated outside of Kansas City, as you will Minnesota. Like, who knows if, you got the Giants this week. You got Bengals next week in Jacksonville. Like, are they going to be able to pull these wins out? You don't know what this team is just in disarray. And Lurie or Howie or somebody in that front office better get it right before this guy just makes more of a mockery of this fan base, the organization, and the team, because this guy's an ass clown.
How many of us?
He's not a head coach.
Yeah, he's not a head coach. Before you go to Clip Angel, how many of us have to backtrack, myself included, to a little bit, right? That the reason that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl were 3 reasons, right? Jason Kelce,
right?
Brian Johnson, and Shane Sterkin. They're the reason the Eagles went to that Super Bowl with Sirianni as the head coach. The Sirianni thing and the Big Dom thing, that was all sideshow stuff. All sideshow stuff, because there hasn't been any consistency with these coordinators or the coaching style, aside from trying to do the same over and over and over, that yielded the same results. Like, if he was the guy, and I'm going to put a bow on it, if he was that guy, then no matter who came in, he would be like, listen, this is what our vision is on defense. This is what our vision is on offense. I'm the head coach, I'm going to go through that locker room and say, Lane Johnson, he's a leader. Brandon Graham, he's your leader. They have the ear of everybody else in the showers, in the weight room, in the training room, whatever. Those are the guys you need to go. But he doesn't. He couldn't identify an apple if it was right in front of him.
You couldn't. It's enough to freaking drive you bananas. I swear it's enough to drive you bananas. Because it's just, and I know it's like Jerry from Rhode Island, who's become a really, really good friend. He makes me laugh too, because they talked about like Drake May. They finally started him, and now people are talking about, which I find it insane that people want to argue Gerard Mayo fired. Like, it is week 6, just passed. What are you guys freaking thinking after New England? But whatever, that's New England. And then again, we have reasons why we want to see Nick gone, nonetheless. But with that being said, because I have blown by, which I can't even believe it's already 11:22 here. But I've pretty much blown by it. And speaking of, I should take one thing off the screen up here that I just, as I'm speaking, that I noticed. But nonetheless, it is 11:22 here. I want to quickly get into our sponsors we do appreciate and love around here on the Coastal Sports Network. But when I come back, it's been a while since I played anything from Annie Agar, which she normally does a great wrap-up weekly of how the teams are. So I'm going to switch gears here from everything when it comes to Eagles talk, is just because I didn't get the opportunity to talk about it last week, obviously being off because of Hurricane Milton again. Thank you to a lot of people who reached out to see how we were. We do appreciate it. Jerry, Gas Pump Guy. Speaking of, hold on for a second before I go into the break and I lose this train of thought. Gas Pump Guy is so close of sending me a Tampa Bay Buccaneers application, the hat, the pen to write with, the paper in tow. And I know, listen, the Godfather Fuji, I know he laughs about it all the time. It's so freaking close because I'm so done with just what it is with Nick Sirianni. I'm tired of it. And I'm all in with USF.
You're finally, excuse me, not to cut you off, but now you're going to dust off that Brady jersey in the back of that closet and finally admit that you're a Tampa Bay folks.
Listen,
Angel, admit it on air.
No,
right, Duncan, Dad, let's just get in the business.
A 4-1 team with an MVP quarterback candidate. Okay.
Listen, I have not by any means purchased any Tom Brady gear whatsoever. None. Unless Tom wants to come to the house and sign himself. You never know. As Penguin as he joins in, he says, Angel join the Buck ship. Yet, listen, I'm not on that ship just yet, but Lord knows it is driving me absolutely bananas when it comes to this team and the way they're handling themselves. But I'll get into Annie Agar after the break. This is going to be super quick. It's not going to be a quick, it's not going to be a long-winded 4-minute break. This is going to be really quick. We're going to make sure to take care of the sponsors, the people who take care of us here. And thanks, you guys. By the way, you can always visit sr1029thegame.com so you can download the app, just like my great friend Duncan Dad has done. So if you guys are at home and you're getting ready to hit the road and you're watching the show live, you can do it on the app. And then when you switch into the car, you can switch over into the radio side of the house. So you can listen to it on a Bluetooth, on Android, or CarPlay, depending on what your car you have. Unless you're Fuji, where you have a Mercedes-Benz and a Bentley all combined into one. I don't know what he calls it anymore, but he's got that kind of fancy money. But
I wish.
Yeah. By the way, Penguin Easy Side, just send you a Mayfield jersey, Angel. Oh, listen, when it arrives here, I'll sport it. Put it that way, if that's the case. But no, thanks once again for everybody who download the app, because you can make the switch from the radio back to the video. Once if you get to the gym, you want to share with your friends, let them know. And by the way, on the screen as well, as you guys see the QR code, if you scan the QR code, I make it even easier. So you guys can scan the QR code and you can download the app that way. And for those who've already downloaded the app, I do appreciate it. Also, I'll get into some Arena Football 1 league news, as the season will quickly come around before you know it. And Rick says, I'm sending Sirianni the app right now. Good, Rick. Exactly. Send it to him because he needs to hear this.
Send him to the box. I'm sure Todd Bowles could use them as Paulie pom-poms on the sideline.
Probably so. Probably so. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Don't forget, you guys can make the social media comments as you've had all show long. And you can also text or call into the show at 727-858-6650, 727-858-6650. We will be back after this quick sponsor break. You're listening to Martinez Company here live on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jimmy the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Jardiniere.
Phil Castanetti Sports World in Saugus, Mass. is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Don't miss the return of the legend, former Bruins goalie Tim Thomas. Tim will be at Sports World on Saturday, October 5th from noon until 2 p.m. Tim will be signing and taking photos. Prices vary, so don't miss this awesome event. Saturday, October 5th at Sports World, 184 Broadway in Saugus, Massachusetts. Call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontb.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Don't just follow us on the socials. Call or text the show 727-858-6650 and let us know what's on your mind. Now back to Martinez and Company.
That's going out there to Sirianni, so you can kind of get a clue. Hello, we're all waiting to see exactly what you're going to end up doing, which is going to be next to nothing. But thank you all once again for tuning in here. Martinez, the company, as we are quickly coming up at the bottom of the hour, we are here live until 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So in case you're looking for us at any other given point in time, we normally are on here till 12. We were off last week because of Hurricane Milton. And thankfully, even though there's been a lot of damage in the area, the good thing is there's a lot more people alive. Because again, cars, boats, houses, all that stuff, materialistic, you can replace it. It's an inconvenience, but we'd rather have you here with us all. And again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, was thank you to Ron DeSantis for the great job that he's been doing, along with Rick Scott and everybody down here in Florida who's been taking care of one another and make sure that we prosper and rebuild paradise all over again. Joining us as well is Gaspar Guy, as we'll get into some Bucks talk, as the Bucks took care of business. If anything, there was a Bucks and the Lightning down here in Florida making things better. But before we get into that, I do want to share here two things. One is the video, as I mentioned, with Annie Agar. She does her weekly wrap-up report, which she's got a good one coming up this week. Also, the Arena Football One League. For those who don't know, it used to be the AFL. Now they switched it. The AFL is still the AFL, except with a different owner. The Arena Football One League was basically recreated or spawned off of the AFL, which Jeff Fisher is the commissioner and running the entire show up there with AF1. But re-signing has started. Two of them, Caleb and Sean Williams, both back with the Orlando Predators, is good to see because our running back took a gruesome injury in the beginning part of the season, so it's good to see that he will be back. I, too, will be back with the Orlando Predators as your Spanish play-by-play broadcaster. And for those who don't know, that if you're listening to me when I'm doing it live here on Twitter and over on the website and everywhere else, if you just hit number 1 on your keyboard or number 1 on your phone, it'll automatically translate to English. And if you fall for it, I got an island on the Galapagos that you guys can buy. Just put it out there.
Join the fanatic.
Sure do. I go there with the Philly Fanatic, exactly where he's from.
Nice.
Before we get
he's there now, we know that.
Of course he is. It's God. Oh, that's another one too. See, and there's things I'm going to have to start bringing things back to the show. I did mention prior to the All-Star break, if we see the Phillies doing this roller coaster nonsense going into postseason, they're going to be exited out early. Again, I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not anybody. I've seen things through history, and we see history repeat itself, and we've seen it with the Phillies. Good thing that Skipper got an extension. Let's just hope that Dave Dombrowski, he talks about that he loves it here. He doesn't want to be anywhere else. You got to figure out what the team's going to need, and pitching is one of those big things. So let's hope we can get that done. All right. Here's Annie Agar before we get into some Tampa Bay Buccaneers talk, but here's Annie with her weekly report.
This was a terrible week for NFL coaches. Dennis Allen, Nick Sirianni, and Mike McCarthy might get fired. The good news for Mike McCarthy, he should have no problem finding another job. Since it is almost Christmas, malls are already looking for new Santas. Speaking of firing coaches, let's start there. Last week, the Jets fired Robert Saleh. Todd Downey is also taking over play calling for Nathaniel Hackett. So you made it worse. Quick question, how did you get him fired? Jacksonville, since you're here, let's start with your game. The Bears have scored 5 offensive touchdowns in back-to-back games for the first time since 1956. I haven't seen a blonde struggle that badly with Bears since Goldilocks. How did you have 4 drop touchdowns? Well, 3 of them were on the same drive, so technically only 2 touchdowns. Get Doug Peterson in here. I just love it over here. How about you stay over there? I can't do that. I don't speak British. Doug. Okay, Doug, why do you keep giving the ball to ETN over Tank Bigsby? See, I didn't understand a word of that. How you ever won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles should be studied. Most people come into this country to get a job. Doug Peterson's coming back into the country to lose it. Before they leave, can we talk to Christian Kirk? Don't you have enough slot receivers? Not good ones. Fine. Jacksonville, get Christian Kirk in here. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Not that one. There's another one? Oh my God. Caleb Williams is the best rookie quarterback of our generation. Your 4 wins came from teams who have combined for 4 wins. I'm sorry, which version of you is this? Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre? You mean between 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks? Okay, look, you guys are just jealous. Your O-lineman in the head. Yes, when the Lions were throwing passes to their O-lineman, they actually meant to. Speaking of rookie quarterbacks, Drake May is the real deal. Drake May threw more touchdowns in his first start than Jacoby Brissett has all season. Couldn't get to New England without the Mayflower. Didn't half the people on the Mayflower die their first year. The Patriots play the Jags next week in London. That is the worst thing we've done to England since the War of 1812. All right, moving on. Let's do Ravens Commanders. Lamar is now 21-1 against NFC teams. Are we not going to talk about the refs? That pass interference call was terrible. Your defense is terrible. You know, you could really use someone like Chase Young or Montez Sweat. It was not that bad. I've seen Bronny James play better defense, and he's so bad he might retire before his dad. All right, we have to do it. The Cleveland Browns are 0 for 26 on their last 26 third downs with Deshaun Watson. The 0-16 season was better than this. I have an idea. Oh, grow, this would be Why don't you tell Jimmy we have to bench Deshaun? You want me to tell him to bench Deshaun? Not you. Just say it's an NFL rule. A rule to bench Deshaun? Great. Okay. Jimmy, yeah, 1 sec. The NFL has a rule. You can no longer play Deshaun Watson. What did you just say? Say that again? The NFL has a rule. I've never even heard of that rule before. Did he just go back there and ask you to say? Yeah, he did. What? I went to ask him if we could start Deshaun more. Side note, the Joker 2 came out this week. I heard it was terrible. I will not be seeing it. If I want to watch a clown dance around for 2 hours, I'd watch Nick Sirianni. He was just excited. Well, tell Patrick Beverly to calm down. Beat the Cleveland Browns by 4 points. Philadelphia fans have now both Nick Sirianni and Santa, which is ironic because they both put children on their laps to save their jobs. All right, just a couple more things. Mike McCarthy will be on the season finale of Yellowstone next month, since he's so good at bringing the Cowboys season to an end. All right, everyone, do not pile on Dallas. After all, they did just lose to an Applebee's manager. What happened? I thought you were all in. All in Cancun. The Cowboys are not making the playoffs. I guess they didn't report as eligible. The Lions ran a design hook and ladder to their offensive tackle, let Dan Skipper run routes as a wide receiver, and threw a flea flicker to Sam Laporta. Siegfried and Roy were treated better by the Lions.
Yeah, here we go.
You just shut up. I think this is funny. Jerry Jones is furious. I haven't seen a billionaire this upset since Kim K dropped her earrings in the ocean. Spencer Rattler is so much better than Derek Carr. He threw a ball out of bounds. See? Get Dennis Allen in here. Your defense gave up 16 missed tackles. Aaron Judge makes more contact in October than you. Who runs a screen on 3rd and 16? I would. Luke, you have to be the worst offensive coordinator. Guys, the halfback toss went for positive yards. I told you, 30th time's the charm. Pew, 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 pew. And lastly, Daniel Jones is now 1-14 in prime time. I haven't seen a New York team this bad since last night. That was terrible. There were 22 penalties for over 200 yards. Yeah, sorry about that. This was a new group of refs we were rolling out. What was different? Instead of telling them the rules, we let them do their own research.
Always a good job with Annie. That was when fortunate enough to meet her out there in Vegas, and I told her that I really enjoy the segments that she ends up doing. And again, it's hard to come up with stuff like that, but week in and week out. But that was a good one, especially when she talks about if she wants to see someone dancing around, she should see the clown, which is Sirianni, to do so. So if she points it out, it's also pretty bad as well. But on the line with us as well, here's guest from Guy Penguin AZ said he may end up joining us here momentarily as we have about 25 minutes to go here on the show. But GPG, what a game by Baker Mayfield and crew.
Oh yeah. That was a little worried there. They scored 2 points two touchdowns right away, and then they started to fall apart. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is this how it's really gonna go? And then for them to come out in the second half and just, my personal opinion is just dominate the second half. I think the Saints scored one more touchdown, and then after that it was just all Buccaneers. And I think I mentioned to you too when we were talking back and forth that this was a real test for the Bucs. They were doing good. They hit a bump in the road, and they went into halftime and they fixed whatever they needed to have to fix and came out on top. I think that's a good testament of how this team is and how they react to certain things. And I just see positive things from now on. And to touch on Duncan Dad, I'm putting my vote in for Baker Mayfield to be MVP because what he's doing right now is just great, phenomenal.
Duncan Dad?
No, I think been thoroughly impressed with the Bucs. Worried a little bit, that little hiccup, but they play within themselves. They know how to adjust. Not having White at 100%. Rookie running back doing amazing. Baker, playing within himself. I mean, the turnovers last week cost me a little bit in fantasy. I'm not going to hold it against him, but he's playing to the potential that everyone knew he was capable of. He just needed an opportunity to be set in an organization that really gave him just freedom to just be himself. And talking about leaders, right? They rally around Baker Mayfield. Like, Baker Mayfield's a winner. Mm-hmm. He just is. Like, he's that guy. Like, he walks in and people are like, oh, all right, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And you need that. Like, you need that guy. You need that steady metronome as you go through this season. And, we're a quarter way through the season, right? Tampa, at this point, you're legit, right? The Saints came out, gangbusters. Guess what? They're not legit. Everybody's like, oh, Saints, no. Tampa, you're legit. And I expect to see this continue over and over and over as we go on for the rest of the season. And I jokingly, like after week one, put a little, it's like, let's ride with Baker Mayfield here. Let's see what happens. And he's not disappointing. He's learned enough to know what he can do, what he can't do. He's being exactly what he is. Right? When he's got to break out, contain, and he's got to go get some yards, he goes and gets them. When he has to throw the ball away, he throws it away. He knows who he is. And Tampa, and not to, bow down with the mighty Buccaneers, but they are very quickly acknowledging who they are and have an identity as a team. You want to play a ball control kind of game? They could slow it down, right? You want to go up and down the field? Let's go. As long as their defense stays in that bend don't break sort of mode, you're gonna have a hard time knocking Tampa off.
Nope, absolutely true. And thanks to the Gascon guy, by the way, he was sending me messages as we were heading back from South Carolina back. So Gascon guys, always appreciate you from sending me the updates. But from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, was it 17-0 or something to that nature in the first half, Gascon guy?
Yeah, 17-0. Yeah, in the first quarter.
Right. And then obviously they turn on the Jets in the second half, which it sounded like they were having a field day, according to what you were sending me as far as messages. So listen, again, I mentioned beforehand with the whole situation with Carolina Panthers, you have Dave Canales, who was here last season, helped out Baker Mayfield resurrect his career. Baker now looking good. People can say whatever they want to, but he is well received, well loved here in Florida. And who wasn't a country? I'm trying to think. Who was the one that was just here not so long ago? Gascon guy that, and I know he wasn't in Fort Myers, in the Tampa area, but he performed. Was it Morgan? What's
Morgan Wallen? Yeah.
Yeah, and he walked out with them, and then obviously he had a great time there. And then he also went to another event. God, I'm trying to think what was the other event that he walked out to. But I mean, Baker Mayfield.
I don't remember.
I'm trying. It's drawing me a blur since being away from last week, but. This team, I mean, and I know I gave Coach obviously a hard time, thinking that we were going to see more of the same. The good thing is we haven't heard a lot during his pressers like he did last year. Like we practiced well, we did well, practice was good was practice, blah, blah, blah. Like, almost a word soup of stuff. But he's doing well, both offensively and defensively. I mean, they still don't have the guys 100% healthy. Again, the schedule does not get any easier either for the Bucs, but this team, now I don't want to say it like the NFC East, but for the NFC South, the Bucs should end up winning this. But, and I'll use a huge but on this one, is that you have the Atlanta Falcons who are hanging around that I think a lot of people probably thought, that even though Kirk Cousins came to Atlanta, but wasn't expecting for Atlanta to pull off the wins, Atlanta is on the heels of the Bucs. So at this point in the season, going into week 7, GBG, is it still for the Bucs to not only win the division, but hopefully keep the division if it gets to the point where they're able to host a divisional game? Again, there's a lot of things to still play out. We still got many weeks left of football, but 10 weeks or so. But the Bucs playing the way they are right now, is it for them to lose?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said in the beginning of the season, I told you I was worried about the Saints and the Falcons, and now that we played against the Saints, I mean, every game is different, whatever, but seeing that we can blow them out 51 points, we can get that. I think we can do that the next time we play. The thing I'm worried about, the game I'm going to circle, is when we play against the Falcons again. If we play against the Falcons and we beat them, then I say this division is wrapped up. But if we play against the Falcons and we lose to them again, then yes, definitely we're going to have to win another string of games to even be close, or, depending on how far we fall back or they fall back. But and you answering your question, yeah, I think it's all on the Bucs, whether they win or lose this division. They have complete control of it right now, and that's a good spot to be in, is to be able to control your own destiny or control your own fate, is what they would say. So I think if they keep playing like they are, I think they're full steam ahead and they're taking this division for sure.
I think so as well. I think we may have lost Fuji. Maybe he had I think maybe he got a call from Nick. You wanted to know if Rick sent him the app or not. So no, but
help with the pressure.
Exactly. No, but I mean the Bucs look great. For all intents and purposes, they look really good. I think Baker Mayfield really has control of the locker room right now. And again, going back to Coach there, it's been, and speaking of, here he is, as I'll once again merge the calls together. Fuji, I think we had lost you there for a second. We figured that maybe Nick called you and wanted some word of advice from you, but I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, get out of town.
Did he get the burner phone fixed?
Yeah.
Yeah, he finally switched from Metro PCS to Cricket. At least he upgraded, so that's a good thing.
Bad jokes, huh?
It's all right. No, but it's been really good for the Bucs right now. I would agree with you, Gaspar. When it comes to Atlanta, certainly that one is going to be a tough one. Again, even with Minnesota, seeing what happened with Minnesota. I mean, Kirk Cousins left. Obviously, he drafted the quarterback that he wanted out of the draft. Goes down to an injury. Backup comes in. He's having a stellar year. But I want to see how this team's going to continue. As a matter of fact, before I switch over to talk a little bit about USF before closing out the show here, I want to go back to looking at the schedule coming up. And by the way, Duncan Ed Button, you've been keeping up kind of with the weekly picks.
Oh yeah.
How did before I get into the schedule here, what to look like from last week?
I had my picks. I didn't get your picks though. Did you send your picks over to me?
I thought it, but maybe I didn't. But I will
check.
Did I? I could have sworn.
You said here are the picks of the week, and the Eagles and Browns are bonus pick, and then I also had.
I sent mine to you, I believe, on Twitter.
Yeah, you got yours on Twitter. So
I think I sent mine to you, Andrew. I believe.
Let's see. One, two, three. No. So Baltimore won, right? Yeah. So
yep.
Win, loss, win. All right. So let me see. I got 3. You gotta update all this in the books here.
Yeah.
3, 2. I went 1, 2, 3. I went 5 and 0. That's me. What were yours, Angel?
Bills.
Of course, he's got the bend. He can look back now and be like, "Oh yeah, I took them. That's right. Those guys, yeah, they're mine. That's right."
No, because I said.
1, 2, 3.
All right, I will tell you because I know when I probably didn't. You're probably right. So the picks that I had for everyone this week was Washington, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Detroit, Dallas, Bills, Jets, Browns, Eagles. Now, in all fairness, which my wife can attest to this, because unfortunately the ESPN Pick'em games didn't get recorded, but my picks for the week were Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Bills, because it was kind of easy to see the win over the Jets, even though I was, clenching my teeth there. But then I even as the bonus game that I threw for everybody this week, I even went with the Eagles, and sadly enough, they actually won, which I should be saying the opposite way, but whatever. But those were my picks for the week.
So you had Tampa.
Yep.
Baltimore.
Yep.
The Bills.
Yep.
You take the Bears.
Yes.
And then you took who's left? The Lions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you're like me. You and I went 5-0 this week. Everybody else, Gas Pump 4-1. Miss Lavon was 3-2. She couldn't pick the Ravens for some reason. She's not a Baltimore fan. And then just got to add in Penguin stuff. And everybody got the bonus. I think everybody picked the Eagles. I mean, it was like you wanted it to be a layup, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it wasn't. By the way, the schedule for the Bucks here, week 7 going into the Monday night or 8:15 at Raymond James Stadium. You have the Ravens. So, as a matter of fact, even though we're going to do the picks for Friday, but just early on, we'll make it a midweek pick. And I'll start. Fuji, I'll start with you. Ravens, Bucks. What do you got?
Oh,
that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. That's why I figured we'd do it now, and then we'll do it again. Everybody will have 2 days to think about it and do it again on Friday.
All right.
Penguin AZ, I did get your picks, and Rick went 5-0 as well.
I'm going to go with the Bucks. Playing at home, just on fire. Be close. I think I'll take the Bucks pulling it out.
All right. GBG?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks. If the defense can keep Lamar and what was that Derrick Henry they have over there, if they can keep them contained, I think they could win this game.
All right. Rick said the Ravens. So he's going to go with the Ravens. And then joining us on the line here on the party line, as we like to normally do on Mondays and Fridays, but it is Wednesday. We're back from the hurricane. Penguin AZ, as we're picking, and we're not doing all the 5 picks. So this is just for today because I just brought up the schedule for the Bucks. Ravens, Bucks, who do you have for Monday night?
First, I want to say welcome back, Angel, and hope everything's going all right. Sending great vibes and prayers out there. See you out there in Florida. What's up, Duncan Dad, Gas Pump Guy, Mike Fuji, Rick? I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm gonna go with the Ravens on this one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, it's almost like you really can't go with a real win-loss here because they're both playing right now excellent football. Duncan Dad, what say you?
Oh man,
it's a tough one.
I would be chastised and probably endure corporal punishment if I chose Baltimore in this house. But no, I think I'm going to go with Tampa. I really feel as if that bend don't break defense. They're going to give up touchdowns to Derrick Henry, which is fine. If Baltimore wins this game, it's going to be because they really, really slowed it down. A lot of ball control, and I'm not afraid to pick Tampa because their offensive proficiency right now. It's knock on wood. I'm not going to jinx them. I just feel like they can score with whomever. Like I really feel as if they can just score with whomever at this point. So as long as that defense one or two times you can get a stop, maybe bottle up Henry, maybe get Lamar to throw something he doesn't, necessarily want to throw, catch a lucky break, a little bounce or whatever. I'm just not afraid of Baltimore's defense. Like if I'm on the other side of the room here and I'm looking at it from Tampa side, I'm like, I can run slants all day with Chris Godwin. As long as I get a little chip block from Otten, I can dump it off to him all day. And you start forgetting about that dude. There's Evans. I mean, like they got and say they get White back this week. Now you got two running backs you got to worry about in the backfield. Who's coming in? You got a Bruiser coming in. You got the Slasher coming in. I don't know. I think Monday night Tampa. Everything back after the hurricane. Like this is just it's building this crescendo to like, all right, Tampa Bay, Tampa strong, all that kind of stuff, and that's where momentum carries over. That builds. It's a real thing. So I'm definitely going to go with Tampa in this game.
Yeah, it is. This is an extreme tough one because they're both playing really well. Derrick Henry, as everyone's mentioning here, obviously if he runs the ball, it's gonna be lights out. But if Bucs can stop it, I think the momentum right now is still carrying with the Bucs. I end up seeing it's gonna be a true test, even for the Ravens. I mean, the Bucs. It's not like the Ravens are coming into town like, oh, this is a win. It's gonna be a tough, both offensively, defensively for both of these teams. So I'll pick the Bucs as well. And again, come Friday, anybody wants to change their mind, it's a whole different story. They can end up doing it. But to go with the rest of the schedule here for the Bucs, Week 8, as Gaspar Guy said, it's Sunday, 1 o'clock. That'll be against the Falcons. Then you have Kansas City at Kansas City on Monday night. Another Monday nighter again, 8:15. Then you have the Niners back at Ray J on Sunday, November 10th at 1 o'clock. Then they finally have their Week 11 bye, which I think Gaspar Guy, and I know a lot of teams absolutely love when they have a late season bye. And I think at that point, hopefully the team should be at least 98%, and most of the guys that have been on the injury roster should be able to come back at that point. So do you like the late bye week, which obviously I would expect for you to say yes, not to say no, because again, everybody likes it. But
you made my point for me, Angel. I like the later bye week because all the injuries that accumulate up to that point, you may have a chance to get some of those early injuries back in the line, so that helps out even more. So yeah, I like the late byes.
All right. Then we got Week 12, Sunday, what is the week of Turkey Week? It is at the Giants at MetLife Stadium, which, it's funny because we would have thought in the beginning, the Giants in actuality should have been, listen, Giants fans, don't get mad at me. It should have been trash. Even my hermano, other than Gas Pump Guy, but with Rich Q, it's funny because he even said that the Giants were going to do that well this year. And here the Giants are literally fighting in every single game. So that's not going to be like an easy win for the Bucs either, especially if the Giants are trying to play spoiler for these teams making playoff pushes. Then you have December 1st. Listen, and you guys, I will say this joke forever and a day because I have no problem with it whatsoever. But for those who lived out there in Philadelphia, it is also considered Welfare Day. So they will be playing on Welfare Day, December 1st. The Carolina Panthers. Then after that, you have Week 14, which is that Sunday at 1 o'clock against the Raiders, again, back at Raymond James. And then Week 15 is a 4:25 start in LA at SoFi Stadium. Then Week 16 at Dallas. And then finally at home No, excuse me. The week before the final week, you have Carolina and then New Orleans. Both games at Raymond James at 1 o'clock, except for week 18, because that's when we have the shifts to see who plays who. So that one would probably end up being a flex game. And who knows, maybe even week 17 could possibly be a flex game. So again, it doesn't get any easier for the Bucs. It really doesn't. I think this team right now, the way they're playing, it should be. And if Atlanta keeps playing the way they're playing, and not taking anything away from New Orleans either, because New Orleans, everybody right now in the NFC South, this is a toss-up. I could be wrong, Duncan Dad, but it seems like the NFC South right now and GPG, this could be a toss-up division.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that it's like that all the time. I mean, our division is supposedly the crappy division of the NFC, but I always see fight out of, unless you're really bad like the Panthers have been, but every year there's always a fight in the division with all those teams of trying to get that first place. So I think it's good competition in the division, but I'm just one guy. Everybody else that gets paid to do this type of stuff says that the NFC is the crappy division. So take that however you want it, I guess.
That's why Duncan Dad's on here every single week. He pays me. Like, he sends me like Dunkin' Donuts coupons. Sometimes, if I'm too wise, what he does, he sends me his empty cup after he already drank it, just to let me know to fill it back in and come next week. So,
I think that division is.
Duncan Dad, some coupons my way.
Yeah.
All right. Send some coupons over, some of those QR codes, just scan them, get the gift cards, walk in. I mean, these next 4 games, right, for the Bucs, you're going to find out again, like, are they real? Are they not real? Right? You've got Ravens, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers. You got the division game versus the Falcons. You get the Niners. You got the Falcons. Right? So, real quick, has this offensive line matured enough, bonded enough to give Baker the protection that he needs? Are these guys not going to be phased with some of these defensive schemes that run out of them? Hard test ready with Harbaugh, right? They already had their little snafu with the Falcons. Chiefs in Kansas City on a Monday night. Spags and Andy, doing their thing, and then the Niners. So this is sort of their little gauntlet. They come out of this 4-game stretch 2-2. I think you've got to be over the moon if you're the Bucs.
Mm-hmm.
They come out 3-1. Man, you're popping bottles more or less, right? You should pretty much have at least a wild card locked up by that point, right? But it could go the opposite way too, right? They could come out 1-3, right? They're gonna catch somebody at some point, right? But the 49ers are gonna get healthier unless something tragic happens with them. Chiefs, they're gonna be the Chiefs, and all these people like throwing the Chiefs under the bus and not playing as well. They're still defending champs. They're still undefeated at my last check, right? I mean, like, just you can't knock them. You can't write them off, right? You just can't write them off. And if you're going to be this team that's on the up and up, you got to handle your business. Lucky for Tampa, 3 out of the 4 games are at home.
Yep.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic.
It is. Before I close out the show here, because I want to finish up here with Penguin AC, because Green Bay, Jordan Love came back a little bit earlier than expected. Obviously, he took the injury in Brazil, come back, and the Packers did well without Jordan Love at the start there. So now, for you, Penguin AC, you have the Texans coming up, and the Texans have been, I don't want to say like struggling, but it's their wins have not come easy, to put it in best terms. But now Green Bay plays the Texans at Lambeau Field. That'll be, this upcoming weekend, 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, or Central Daylight Time, depending on how everybody wants to stay that way. Because I think, don't we switch these goofy clocks once again?
We're going back, baby. We're going back.
Yeah, you're going back.
Is it this weekend?
I think it's next.
Actually, I think it's the first one in November.
Just freaking leave it alone. I hate switching, especially being here in Florida. It's a resort, state. Anyways, I can get into that whole thing at a different time, but nonetheless. But Penguin AZ, so you have Texans coming up, and this was also a big too, because you got to figure Mia O'Brien, who was on with myself and Pete earlier today, she mentioned that the next 2 games, Dougie P basically craps the bed here. Then it could turn around and end up being a loss. But then you guys head out to Jacksonville, week 8. That's a 12 o'clock game as well. Those 2 upcoming games, just taking those 2 alone for Houston and for Jacksonville. How are you feeling for Green Bay for those two?
Green Bay needs to continue to work on their defense. I mean, they start out great. Jordan Love is still underthrowing it, overthrowing it. I mean, the receivers had an issue with Romeo Dobbs. He comes back. So there's still a little bit of shakiness in that receiver locker room. When you have somebody leave for whatever issues, and then, you lose a little bit of camaraderie with the guy, right? He's coming now back in, wanting to feel maybe a little bit part of the group again. Our linebackers cannot seem to stop anybody going through the middle. Those quick 5 and outs, 10 and outs, they can't get nothing. Our secondary is shining. I mean, Xavier McKinney, he was 5 for 5, interception, 5 games, 5 interceptions. So, the secondary is killing it, but we just, we seem to let these guys let the pedal, the foot off the gas.
Right.
Gas all the way, like gas pump guy. Keep that foot on the pedal, man. Like, I hate it when they start slacking. The first quarter, they're gangbusters. Defense is playing great. They're running the ball. They're throwing it. They're running their plays. Matt LaFleur is running the offense, doing good. They start gaining some momentum. Second quarter runs around. The half, start giving up easy touchdowns. Coverages are blown. And they can't do these with teams that are coming out here to try to prove something. The Texans are good. I think they're struggling a little bit because people are finally exposing them. They're knowing what they're up to. Nico Collins and then that receiver, they're great. They got all those guys. CJ Stroud is a stud too. But I think they're finally getting a little bit figured out, and teams are finally, knowing what their weaknesses might be and where they could expose them. And so they're not going to be an easy out. The Texans are going to give us all that we can handle and more. So will the Jags. The Jags are going to do the same thing. They ain't got nothing to lose. So why not give us the best that they got, which I wouldn't expect anything less. So I hope we go in and get another 2 more wins. But it's going to be shaky. I think Love is another good tackle away from maybe re-injuring or getting, so hopefully not. But hey, I'll go with Willis again. He did all right for me. So, but yeah, I think that's where I'm at. What about you?
I think it'll be, if they can go toe to toe with the Texans. And let me kind of fast forward just maybe a couple games after Detroit. That's a tough one. It's obviously Turkey week. But
then I like to see Vikings again. That's going to be, if we could get them the next round, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, because it's the same way. Green Bay's schedule doesn't get any easier either. Other than the Browns,
right?
And who else? I saw one at Miami. Because Miami's pretty much their season's done, no matter which way you look at it. I've heard no news, by the way, either from Tua. It seems like, and I could be wrong. I guess we'll end up with this, but with Green Bay, I think I can definitely see them beating Jacksonville at the rate Jacksonville's going right now. But the true test will be coming up with the Texans, because then after that you have Detroit, which is going to be really, 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 really good test for with Detroit.
And, I wouldn't be surprised if them Bears start coming around and grabbing a little bit of momentum. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we're out there battling for third place,
Yeah.
So in the division, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. The NFC North has just gotten better and better. Like you said, the Lions are playing great ball. The Vikings got a little bit of identity going, and the Bears are starting to get a little bit of identity going. Caleb is starting to, move around a little bit better, do a little bit better of scanning the field. So we'll see.
Yep.
Not to interrupt anybody, but that black and blue division's the best division of football right now. Everybody's got a winning record.
It sure is. You're absolutely right, Fuge.
So just to jump on Penguins thing, you're talking about the Packers schedule, right? So coming up after you have your Jaguar game, and then you take care of the Lions, which is going to be a tough test, right, on November the 3rd. Between November 17th and December 5th, right? 18 days. The Packers are going to play a game every 4.5 days in that time. That's the average. So, you're going to know what Green Bay is all about right there. They're either going to jump off the edge, because in those games, you play the Bears in Chicago. You play the 49ers at home. You play the Dolphins at home. Again,
they can never play the 49ers. The 49ers, Packers cannot go West Coast. They cannot play West
And then,
Coast.
right, and then you get the Lions on Thanksgiving. Or, I'm sorry, then you get the Lions at the first game in December, the Monday night game. But still, it's like you have a lot of games coming up here all together. Like Penguin was saying, like
Yeah.
you got to figure out what's happening with Love and these receivers. And that defense, I'm sure if I'm Caleb Williams, I'm licking my chops. I'm sure if I'm Jared Goff, I'm licking my chops. I'm sure if I'm, what's Purdy and Shanahan, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
let's get into this secondary, man. I can't wait to do this.
Yeah. No,
Yep.
really, that was a good, solid point. Good, solid point, Duncan Dad. So that is a tough one. That's a tough one, Penguin Z for, I mean, it's 4.5 day
It's true.
stretch.
Duncan Dad is always bringing the heat, man.
He is. That's why he's Duncan Dad, because I'll tell you, this
I know.
just because I
Just
said
like
that.
the hot coffee.
Yeah. Well, now he's just going to send me. He's going to send me the grinds that after it was done. That's what he's going to send me this week.
Use it in your garden.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
Releases nitric oxide.
Yeah. By the way, since I also missed out too, obviously USF did play last weekend. They had to move the game to Camping World. They end up losing against Memphis, 21-3. Tickets are still available coming up this weekend. Saturday, October 19th, they play at 3:30 against UAB. That would be the Battle in the Bay presented by Tampa Bay General Hospital. Also, the homecoming and salute service that's coming up against Navy. That's going to be a tough one. As obviously you have both Army and Navy doing very, very well. And I always absolutely love the Army-Navy game coming up every single year. But we'll get into some more USF stuff coming up on Friday. We do appreciate everyone who tuned in today. Again, Doug, first time who came on. And this afternoon, right at around 5 o'clock in the evening-ish, will be my hermano Rich Q. He should be on. He just told me he was going to give me the power hour here from 5 to 6 p.m. And then later on after that will be Beeves World from 6 to 8 p.m. And then next week, the Talking Hoop show will be back on. They're off this week. They'll be back next week. I also like to thank, obviously, Duncan Dad for coming on, for Fuji, Gaslam Guy, and Penguin AZ for calling in today. And from Pete's show, Chef Derek Fox, who was on with us. Great guest, along with Mia O'Brien, and she gave us a biz about when it came down to Jacksonville, what she thinks her thoughts are with Doug. She feels that if he tanks these next two games, he's basically out, but she's saying that's just her opinion. I like, as we all say, our opinions matter to some folks and they don't, but thanks to Mia and then Bill Sparrows. Don't forget to start your day off with the Pete Shepard Show from 7 to 10 a.m. right here on the Coastal Sports Network and Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. Followed by Martinez Company Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We'll be back into our routine as we're back from the hurricane. And thanks, by the way, Penguin AZ, for saying that we were fine. We appreciate it. And then you have the Drive with Q Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from normally 4 to 6 p.m. Bees World Monday and Wednesdays from 6 to 8. And then Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Monday nights at 8 to about 9:15-ish. And then normally Talking Hoops on Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. And there could be possibly another show joining the ranks. I'm not too sure as we all get through and figure out exactly what's happening. I'm pretty sure my producer is probably going to kill me for saying that, but that's what happens when you continue to grow a good network. Rick says Eagles will be televised in the Tampa area. Well, okay. Well, you know what? Tampa fans enjoy that miserable crap that they're going to put out come this week. Whatever.
They're black.
It's going to be ridiculous. But nonetheless,
We'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. Thank you all for tuning in. We do appreciate it. We will talk to you again on Friday. Of course, you guys will see you tomorrow morning with Pete. Again, thanks to Duncan Dad, Mike Fuji, Gaslam Guy, Penguin AZ. We all hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Don't forget, whatever you guys can do to help out Floridians, we would appreciate it, as there are a lot of folks down here are going to be displaced for their homes for a while. So thank you all. We appreciate it. It's been Martinez Company. Angel Martinez, your host here. We will talk to you later on this week. Thank you, fellas, as I bring back my guy Duncan Dad here. Thank you, guys. I do appreciate everyone, as always. Thank you, not only for every single one of you guys for reaching out and seeing how we are.